Hello everybody and welcome back at How To, a brand new episode to learn how to do your favorite things with the Adobe Creative Cloud apps and in particular in graphic design. Today we will be focusing on learning new animation techniques using the timeline in Photoshop. So welcome everybody and thank you for being here with me at Adobe Live. I'm your host Kladi. I've been here with you with few episodes of How To, and I'm so happy to be back to do more fun stuff together. So before we get started, a few things. I just wanted to say hi to everybody that is here with me on Behance. And if you're watching from YouTube, make sure to jump on behance.net/Adobe Live. That's the place where I can say hi to you, read your questions, and of course you can join the wonderful community at Adobe Live. So make sure to jump in the chat and let's get started and say hi to the wonderful people that are already live with us on Behance. I can see PJ, Steve, ciao. I saw you a few times today throughout the live. It's been a wonderful, busy day. As you know, Adobe Live streams every day, almost every time throughout the day. So you just really want to check out. Today I was watching and I can recognize a few people that are still in chat. I was working myself and I love to hear other talented creatives and I always learn something. And if you've been here with me, you know what I say, that here at Adobe Live, it's a safe, fun space to learn together. I learn a bunch every time that I'm here. So Biola, lovely to see you. Sam Peterson in the chat, helping us out with the shareable links and moderating the chat. Phil, lovely to see you. Omicron, Garrett. And as usual, let me know where you guys are watching from. I'm based in Manchester, UK. That's where I'm streaming from right now. So let me know. Laura, lovely to see you. Come in the chat, jump and say hello. And of course, this is the time in which you can ask any question regarding all the apps, Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, other apps, Creative Cloud Express. So we have George, happy Wednesday. Oh, you miss me on the DCC. I miss myself. No, I miss you guys on the Creative Challenge as well. Make sure to go and check them out. The wonderful Creative Challenges are here on Adobe Live as well to sharpen your skills. Fantastic. So it's time to get started. I want to really show you what we're going to be working on. But so let me just jump into my laptop real quick. We're going to come back to this resource page in just a second. I've actually created some freebies so you can actually work together with me. So this is just part of the animation. We're going to build an animation today. And I'm just going to show you, we're going to have the sky going from a morning to a night sky as the sun is setting. And then we have the little koala, which is moving its leg. Here we go. Let me see if we can zoom in a little bit more so you can actually see it. And I want to show you how you can create these effects, but also much more. In particular, we're going to also learn how to make eyes blinked. I isolated because I kind of want to explain that process first real quick, and then we can go in a more complex layer. But I'm just going to go ahead and bring my timeline to the top, and we're going to have this effect of having the eyes blinking on our koala. So that's what we're going to be working today. That's the project. And as I said, if you want to work together, if you want to follow along, you can do so because I've created these assets just to work together on this project. So this is the file that I've created for you. It's got the morning sky, the little koala, it's got the mountains, the night sky, and then the composition I was supposed to look in the end. So if you do want to access these assets and you want to follow along at any time, I just done that in a rush. So excuse the poor link. It just says here, how to animation assets. If you link to assets, I'm actually going to test it with you right now. It should bring you to a file with the main folder. Perfect. Here it is. So you got to start file. I've created this. As usual, I'm happy to share. Feel free to use it. If you use it online, it would be nice if you tag me. My Instagram is at @IamKladi. We're going to be working to create an asset that can be shared on Instagram. Here it is. That's my friend with her beautiful sons and daughters. But here we go. So that's I am Kladi. And then you can share it here. You can tag me and I'll be looking forward to see your work. So again, feel free to click on the link. Again, I'm going to create a proper post. You can find a lot of freebies here from other different streams that I've created. But for now, you can access these assets over here. I'm also going to provide one with grain. The one that you have here is the flat one. But it's absolutely fine. It works for the purpose of showing and following along with the project. So we all have a same starting point. As I said, I'm actually going to go ahead and close this Photoshop file that I've created. so we can start from scratch together. That was just to show you what we're doing today. And let me just go back into Illustrator. So here, the most important thing to notice that we're going to be working with throughout the stream and forward, hopefully on more and more again, is the fact that now the transition between using Photoshop and Illustrator file is much easier to do, because and that's why I always say that. I remember when I was doing a Rework It with Jesus Ramirez, we always remember that in both application, Illustrator, Photoshop, make sure that you name your layers. And today, more than ever, this is going to be a wonderful time saver, because you will be able to transfer your layers from Illustrator to Photoshop, and that's so useful in animation, especially if these layers are very well named. Fantastic. So let me go ahead and give you a little bit of a preview of this file, which is the same that you're going to use. And I'm going to jump on the other side on the screen real quick. Here we go. So you will be able to follow along with me. Let me see if there is any question, anything that you want to explore in the chat. Looks like everybody is saying hello. Sam, thank you so much for sharing the links. Again, if you want to go on my website, is iamkladi.com, and then freebies is the, I think someone is asking regarding the freebies. So if you go on my website, is iamkladi.com, and then under resources and freebies, that's the page in which you find all the free stuff that I added there. And again, the very first link where it says assets is where you can find these assets. So hopefully everybody is gonna join in. Odari, lovely to see you. Ciao. RB, what's up? Barbara, thank you so much for joining us. Uma Corn is saying, cute koala. No, I was doing an octopus, and I was doing an egg, and then I decided to land on the koala. Oh, we have Rob from Canada. Wonderful. What time is it there, Rob? I'm so curious. Here is 10:38 p.m. So let me know. It must be much earlier there, hopefully. Rob, Kladi, where can I go to learn what the best program is to use for my project? Animate, After Effects, Photoshop, they all have their strengths, but I have a specific output like web ads. Well, Rob, depends what sort of web apps are you doing. If you're doing a lot of web ads that require a very advanced animation, that perhaps I will say definitely After Effects. While today you will definitely learn some techniques with some basic animation that you can definitely use inside your advert. I personally use Illustrator for my adverts. For example, even all the assets that I create for the stream, like the banner for how-to, the stickers, everything that I put online on social media and just for clients, I use in Illustrator. But that's just because I'm more comfortable and I can create multiple artboards, which is something that you can do also on Photoshop. So the most important thing is to understand what sort of work you want to do. I will perhaps say that both Illustrator, Photoshop, and After Effects are fit for the purpose. So let me know. Let me know if you're looking to do more animated video, if you have footage, if you have photo. And again, do you do a lot of photo retouching? Because in that case, it's definitely Photoshop. Do you do a lot of vector art? Because in that case, it will definitely be Illustrator. George, Kladi, is possible if I want to combine my Behance portfolio and animate them so I can present them? If I want to combine my... George, I don't think I understand. If you want to combine by Behance portfolio and animate them so I can present them. I don't know if you want to, I don't understand the question, feel free to repeat it again. But if you mean that if you want to use this project for your Behance portfolio, absolutely. If you are a beginner, don't worry, I'm going to start breaking down bit by bit in very digestible chunks, all this animation stuff. And if you are already a professional, this is the time in which you really build up your portfolio and you create a little bit more wider project. Laura, 11:40 at your end. That's commitment. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Then let's get started. Let's get started working. Hopefully by now everybody has the project as well. Keep your questions coming. I'm going to go back and read your questions again, but now it's time to get started and work. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into Photoshop, and here I'm going to click on New File. And under New File, I'm going to set the intent. Now, I know, as I said at the beginning, that this is something that I'm going to use to create an animated post for Instagram. As you probably know, animated posts retain engagement, because basically what Instagram wants is for people to be on your profile the longer as possible. So in this case, by watching a video, that will automatically take more time than a single photo. And that's why videos are so popular, and of course, Reels. If you want, you can also create that for a Reel. So in this case, if you want a Reel, reel, the width will have to be 1080 and the height 1920. That's the standard social media graphic size for Instagram story or reels, while for an Instagram post 1080 by 1080 is the size. But before moving forward, I want to set the intent for web, and you will see that right away Photoshop will set the core settings of my project ready for web. So remember, always think with your output in mind and use these intent tabs to help you out. You'll find a lot of different presets as well that you could use, and a lot of wonderful templates available for free through Adobe Stock. Right, so right now all I'm left to do is to name the file. I'm going to call this one How2 Animated Koala. You can call your file, I'm just going to put the K. And then I'm going to make sure, as I say, that I use the size of an Instagram post, which is 1080 by 1080. And by the way, real quick, if you are, I'm going to click on create. So I'll start by opening up. In this case, I don't want artboards. I'm just working with one canvas. So I'm going to go ahead and untick artboards and click on create. While my document opens here, just real quick, if you're looking to work with social media and different social media size, I've created a cheat sheet that you can download. The sizes are the same. I will have to update and just write 2022, but the sizes are the same. There is a lot of resolution, a lot of important information here for you. I'm just going to give you a quick overview, but that's again for free for you to access through my website. You find Facebook, Instagram, you have the maximum size, the resolution, everything is there for you to pick the right size for your project. Right, so let me show you how to bring up the timeline. Let's do one thing at the time. As I said, once you open up Photoshop, you will have a blank document. You have your background, which is locked. You can click on it to unlock it, and then we're gonna have to bring our document, our assets from Illustrator. So first of all, press Command S to save your document. You can save it on your computer, or you can save it to the Creative Cloud. Saving to your computer simply saves it on your machine. Saving on Creative Cloud has a lot of benefits. It allows you to sync your device. Everything is already written here, but you can save as you go. You can access previous version of your file. You can share it. You can access from anywhere you want. So choose whatever is the preferred option for you. I'm just going to go ahead and save it inside my Dropbox folder because I like to keep all my projects together. But again, feel free to use your Creative Cloud document. I usually have it for my client's project, so again, completely up to you. Now we saved our file. We have our square 1080 by 1080 ready to go. All we need to do is to bring in our object. You can always bring object from a library if you wish to do so, but if you have already created the lovely illustration and is just ready for you to be used, like hopefully you already had the chance to download, all you have to do is simply to click and drag over the assets. And now let's move into the layers. What I said before regarding the importance of naming your layers correctly and also making sure that you organize the content inside the right layer. As you can see here, we have sky, sun, mountains, here, cloud, koala on the branch, leg, and eyes. Not only those are named correctly, and hopefully they do have the exact content in there, so we can see the koala on the branch, we can see the cloud there, they appear, disappear. You can use the eye icon located to the left of the layer to trigger the visibility or hide and show the content of the layer. We have the sun, so everything is inside their container. But also very important when you're working with animating your illustration is also located inside the right folder in terms of position inside the layer stack. In fact, the position of the layer stack is extremely important, as all the content located inside layers that is below will display under the other objects. Well, look what happened. If we drag a layer and we position it on the top, the content inside the layer will display above all the other objects. So you can always change the position of a layer, so you can always move a content. So let's say I want to create and move these path here. Let's see which one is this is. Let's move this one over here. You can always move it on top, so you can always move the object from one layer to another, but you can also move the entire layer. So don't worry, go ahead and experiment. If you're just playing with layer, you can create new layer by clicking on the little plus icon to create a new layer. That's super easy. You have flexibility. Don't forget to save your file when you have decided the right the right choice. Rob is saying, I can do Photoshop frame animation, but was thinking maybe animate Flash. So Flash is no longer in use. So you might want to make sure it's learning full CSS scares me, but I do need a lot of time. So Rob, definitely check it out. Today, we're not going to be doing frame animation. We're actually going to work with a full timeline. Rob is saying that, RB is saying there are plenty of pre-made reels on the web. Absolutely, but fantastic. So now we have understood the importance of the layer, why it's so important to name things correctly. You'll discover it in a second. I also want to show you, so for example, inside our animation, just to really understand why everything is connected and everything is so important. During our animation, we're going to move the sun going from the top to the bottom. So what happens if it's not placed correctly, it's going to display above the mountains. But because our sun in the layer is located under the mountains inside the layer stack, of course, we will be able to move it and it will automatically go behind our mountains and so on. For our ear, for example, it makes sure that, you know, even if we move it around, it still stays behind the koala head and it doesn't fall on top. So everything in here is already named, and that's another reason why I wanted to give you this particular file and I want to share with you, because it's so important that you have a good example of what creating a nice layer stack is. And hopefully this will be useful and will inspire you to get your layers all nice and neat in your future projects. Perfect. Just real quick, this is not a super hard illustration. If you jump into the outline mode with the Command Y or Control Y if you're working on a Windows machine, you will be able to go from a normal view into an outline preview mode. And you will see that this illustration is basically made by circles and a few rectangle with a rounded corner. So here it is. You have like a bunch of circles that make koala, sun, a cloud, and a little leg. And of course, for the mountains is a rectangle with rounded corners. There are loads of wonderful Illustrator tutorials that you can watch during the Illustrator Creative Challenges and during other, even if you go on my website, under video, you'll find past challenges where there is one in particular that is learning how to design using simple shapes. And that's exactly what happened here. We created a little illustration with multiple elements using literally three shapes: square, triangle, and a circle. Right, so let's go ahead and now copy, click and drag to select all this final work and press Command C to copy it. Now I'm going to head into Photoshop and simply press the letter V to make sure that I have my direct selection tool active, and then press Command V on a on a Mac. That will be Control V on a Windows. And as you can see, since our last beautiful Max event last year in October, the new layer mode is active. So we will be able to paste layers directly from Illustrator. That means that the structure, so the layer stack, is preserved in its structure, and also the attributes and the relative positioning of the objects. So make sure that we tick on layers and we select on OK. And you will see that now Photoshop is asking to bring all the layers. Some effect will be rasterized. In this case, I do have grain. The one that you have at the moment available doesn't have grain, so you will not have this message regarding the grain. And all I'm left to do here is perhaps to reposition it correctly inside my artboard, just like so. Fantastic. It looks like everything is there. As you can see, all the layers that we had inside our Illustrator is now inside our Photoshop layers. Look at that. We have the eyes, leg, koala, ear, mountain, sun, and sky background. Everything not only already named, so you have to do it only once, but also in the perfect order. Let me see if there is any other question. Phil, thank you so much. I'm so happy that you're enjoying this tutorial. Let me see if there is any other question. 1998 version of the timeline. I'm not sure. It looks like you guys are having an internal conversation, which I love. I love this beautiful community. I know that we have Steve, RB, everybody that is here, that has been here, that gives tips. Of course, we have our lovely Sam, but I love this community. And again, feel free to ask questions. I love to learn from you as well. Perfect. So let's get going. Let's start this actual animation because time goes always way too fast. So As I said here, we have everything right in place. Perhaps the eyes are the only thing that I'm going to delete because I want to bring the closed version of the eyes and the open version of the eyes together. This was an example to make sure that where we have them in terms of positioning. So I can select a layer and just simply delete it. I can do the same with the white background. We do not need it. Fantastic. So at the moment, all of these are vectors. So you will see that, for example, these some layer have been rasterized. Remember, there was a message at the beginning of our when we pasted the layer saying that some element and some layer were going to be rasterized, and you can tell the difference by simply looking at the layer thumbnail inside the layers panel. So by the way, if you do not see this panel or any other panel that I'm going to show you in a second, don't forget that all the panels live under the window menu. So go ahead and click window and then layers if you're struggling to see the layers panel when opening Photoshop. So you will see that every layer that displays this checkerboard pattern, which indicates the transparency of the layer, that basically says that everything that is not covered, so in this case, like our little paws, our little leg, everything that is not that leg, it will be transparent. And that's the beauty of working with Photoshop, because everything else that is around will allow to make the layers on the top come through. And again, that's why it's so important that you keep the order of the layer stack. So everything that is under that checkerboard pattern will be able to display, because the layers are transparent unless there is an object that covers that checkerboard pattern. Then I'm going to move forward and go ahead and show you, for example, layer like the sun, which have these little square there that tell us that we're dealing with vector. And in this case, we can also rasterize it real quick by right-clicking on the actual object and then click on rasterize, and that changes sometimes the way that we can do animate stuff. So let's go ahead and start to bring in the eyes. So we have all our elements together. And by the way, before actually I start, the eyes is a little bit more complex. Do you want to see it right away on the koala, or you want to see it on a separate file? I'm actually going to start by the sun because I know that there is a little bit of a delay between when I ask you my questions and you have the chance to reply in chat. And for those of you that are watching on YouTube and wish to participate, make sure to jump on behance.net/Adobe Live. That's where we have our wonderful community. And you can let me know, do you want to work on the eyes opening and closing on a separate file or within the main document? By the way, I will make the separate file available for you because I just think if that's the first approach to animation, you might just want to focus on that. But again, let me know in the chat, only eyes or eyes and koala. I'll be checking the chat out on Behance while I keep working. And in the moment, I'm going to start with the sun. So I'm going to go ahead from the window panel. I'm going to bring up the timeline panel here, and I'm going to click on create video timeline. If you're wondering what a frame animation is, what everybody was talking about before, you can click on a down pointing arrow and you can create a frame animation as well. If we do have time, I might show you something as well with animation real quick. I use it a lot for newsletter, for example. But in this case, we're going to stick to create video timeline. So if your timeline panel says frame animation, again, click on the down pointing arrow and make sure to select. I'm going to zoom in because you cannot really see it. So here we go. Click on the down pointing arrow and select on create video timeline. And then simply click on the button there. Fantastic. So Rob is saying on the main document. Fantastic. Let's get started. In the meantime, as you can see here, another reason why it's so critical to name your file correctly and to have your layers named correctly when working in animation is because the actual layer stack is duplicated inside the layers panel. So I'm going to zoom in into the layers panel so we can have a little bit more of a look and what all these things are inside this new panel. So here we have our main folder, which contains then all the different layers. Now everything is contained into folder because that's the structure of the actual layer stack. So those are called tracks. You can open the tracks to then see all the different animation that you can, all the different effect that you can actually access. But look what happens. If I go ahead and, for example, rasterize the leg, because if you open the layer here, all we have is basically the grain and then the leg. So it doesn't really matter for this case. I just want to treat that as basically an image. I know that I'm not going to resize it, so I am comfortable rasterizing it. So make sure to go ahead. sorry, and merging it. I'm going to press Command E, that will be Control E, and in this case I have merged all the layer into one, and you can find it here. Now once you click on a down pointing arrow, you will not have any other element, because again we changed that folder and we merged it into one. So here we have all the different transition, all the different changes that we can apply while on this particular layer. In this case we can change its position, its opacity and style, but in particular for the leg we want to create a rotation. So how do you make items rotate? Position, it will only change its position. In order to access to rotate, that's called a transformation. To access it, all you have to do is to right click, and then from here you want to confirm, so right click on the layer or press Control and click on the layer, and then convert it to a smart object. You will see now that this has a different icon, so you will know right away that you move from a rasterized layer into a smart object. And once we go back here from the timeline panel, you will see the position has now changed into transform. And also other elements of the panel that you want to be aware of, because they are incredibly important, is this playhead. So the playhead allows you to move back and forward in time in order to set a specific position in time. So whenever you move the playhead and then you apply transformation or you create a keyframe, we're gonna see what a keyframe is in just a second. It's basically a photo of a specific item in a specific place, position, opacity, or whatever attributes you have in that moment of time. It's like a little photo that will allow you to maintain or achieve the attributes at that specific time. So here we have the playhead, here we have the tracks. Of course, here you can play your video. At the moment nothing is happening, so there is no point. With the scissor you can split a track anytime that you want if you wish to separate them. In this case I'm going to go ahead and press Command Z because I don't need it. And something that is also very important is at the bottom of the layer panel you will be able to find this slider, and this slider is very useful because it allows you to enlarge and minimize the actual size of the timeline. So the time is not changing, that time is actually the same. But in this case, you will be able to stretch or shrink the actual way in which is visualized, the thumbnail of each track inside the thumbnail. Rob, okay, this is where you need to go. I'm so happy. You will see we have still half an hour together. I will show you how to move, how to rotate, and how to change the appearance with the opacity. There is so much going on. Wade, lovely to see you. I was watching your Photoshop Creative Challenge. Make sure to go ahead and check out Wade's, I think it's 2 weeks of creative challenges. Again, if you want to learn the basics of Photoshop, if you're, today, if you're a beginner and this seems complex, you can just sit. If you don't want to, work right away, you can just sit and chill with us and just enjoy the stream. And then you can start building your skills from scratch following the Photoshop Creative Challenge, which are live every day on Adobe Live. Wait, if you want to remind us of what time, I believe is 9 or 9:30 Pacific time, but let us know in the chat, and let's get started. So I'm going to also go ahead and take a look at the sun. As you can see here, we have rasterized the sun. So in this case, we will be able to change his position. Fantastic. So we have this ellipse shape. Every time that you see this little time, this little clock is for you to set the keyframe animation. I think it's called time stop. Correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. So let's go ahead and let's start with the sun, because I think it's the most visible of all object. The leg is a little bit hidden. We're going to get into that in just a second, but the sun is probably allow us to see everything a little bit faster and quicker. So the first thing that we're going to use is how to animate by changing the position of an object. So the most important thing, and I'm going to just start by creating simple animation, is to move from a position A, which is the position start, to a final position B. So position A in this case is this starting point. I'm going to go ahead and click on the little time stop to create a keyframe. And you will see that because my timeline, my playhead is based at the origin of the timeline, just above my head. Let me move the arrow so you can see it. Just right there above my head. The actual keyframe will be activated and located at this particular time, and it's gonna record that position of my object. Now all I'm left to do, remember, this is kind of like, if I was you, I would just kind of have this little checklists. The first one will be move the playhead. So that's the very first thing that you want to do, is to move the playhead in time to whatever time that you want to create a different position. And then all you have to do in this case, we already have our sun selected. Make sure to go ahead and drag your sun into your secondary position. And then look what happened here. Another playhead is created automatically because Photoshop already noticed that you have changed the specific position in time. So we have our first keyframe, which is at the origin of the timeline, saying, hey, at time 0, this is the position of our sun. While at the time 2, whatever is the time that we selected in the timeline, we have a second positioning. So if you press play, you can do that by clicking on the play button, or you can simply use the space bar in order to activate the timeline. You will see that the sun transition from a position to another. Now, when you have the keyframe, something that is really important to understand with time is that, of course, when two events are closer in time, that means they happen faster. Well, if you have more space between the event, it means that they happen slower. So if you want the sun to make this movement really fast, what you do is just make these, you move the keyframe a little bit more towards the left, just to make sure that it's closer in time. So let's go ahead and see. Boom, it goes right away into its secondary position. Well, if we want to delay, we can click and drag to move the keyframe into a secondary position. And then I'm going to go back, and you will see that now is going to take more time, which you can display inside your timeline in order to achieve the secondary position. You can click and press on delete key in order to delete any keyframe. And now that we've learned how it works, let's go ahead and make it a little bit more realistic for our illustration. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my playhead to the back. By the way, you can click on the time on the, you can either move your object in order to create automatically a keyframe, or you can at any time, just simply click on the time stop anytime that you want to add a new keyframe. Also, you can click and delete by clicking on the delete key, but you can also edit the position of an object. So make sure to have the playhead exactly at the right place. So now is a time 0 where the playhead is, which is right behind my head. Let me go ahead and move the screen there so you can see it. So once you click on it, you select it, you got the red line of the playhead just on it. What I'm going to do here is to move my sun outside the actual artboard. So let me go ahead and zoom out so you can actually see it. So I'm going to have it here. So I'm actually going to have the sun coming up. Or if you want, we can even make it more interesting. I didn't think of that. I'll just think of that right now. We can perhaps have the sun rising. So we can have the sun coming from below and then up, and then we can have it going down again. So I'm going to have my sun starting from here. And then I'm going to go ahead and move my playhead in time where I want my sun to rise. Make sure to go ahead and select it. You need to know where it is. If you need to visualize where your sun is, don't forget to select it inside your layers panel. I'm going to go ahead and press Command T to see where it is. It's right there. So then once you click on it, you will be able to move it. Look what happens here. So because I am dragging over other layers, the other layers are getting selected. So another good habit perhaps is to lock the layers that you're not using simply by clicking on the lock icon. So you can see I'm just selecting multiple layers that I know that I won't be using at the moment, and just click on it and lock them. So I know that I will be able to focus inside by using my sun there. Okay, so let's go back and find where we actually placed the sun. Let's go ahead and select it there. Here it is. So we have our first position here in time, and then let's go ahead and move it into our secondary position. There we go. Looks like we have it here, and we can put it at the top. So in our first transition, we have the sun rising, going from the bottom to the top of our illustration. And then towards the end of our timeline, we're going to have the sun just kind of going down right here. Perfect. So as you can see now, at the beginning we have the sun rising, and then we have the sun going down. Now it looks like that the sun kind of shoots down, so the day is perhaps shorter than the morning. We don't want that to happen, and the reason is because the distance between these 2 points is actually shorter than the distance between these other 2 points. So usually the distance between points, if you want to maintain an animation that looks nice and neat, so you do not have any issue like in this sense where this a very slow animation at first and then it just goes super fast at the end, you want to make sure that you keep it proportional. The distance of the actual space that you're gonna move the object with the actual distance of the keyframes inside the timeline. So we said our first position is smaller and our second position is longer. So our first gap is gonna be smaller and our second gap is gonna be actually longer. So what happens if you actually want the sun to stay in the sky a little bit longer? Well, first of all, we can go ahead and then from here, simply make sure that we create another keyframe over there in which we maintain the same position. So to do that, I'm actually gonna go ahead and remove my other keyframe. So I know that now the sun is there up in the sky, and then I'm just gonna move the keyframe a little bit further in time, and then I can create and add another keyframe. And in this case, I'm gonna go ahead and having to add a keyframe manually because we did have pretty much no movement, so Photoshop will not be able to find it automatically. So just click once in order to create a timeline, sorry, a new keyframe there. You want to click on the little diamond to create a new keyframe or playhead. So look what happens here. The sun rises and it just stays still in the sky. And now then we can start to have the sun going down. So again, I'm just going to move the playhead to the hand and then have the sun going just down here. Just make it down here so we can make his strip shorter. And let's go again. So the sun rises up, stays, and then goes down. And because we have respected the distances, so the first distance was shorted, we have this distance between the two playheads shorted, then it stays for a little bit. This is the time in which the sun, you will see, stays in the same position, and then it goes down. So you will see that you will be able to click it. So RB is saying turn off auto select. Correct. Auto select is always on. I tend to keep it on for the animation, and I tend to lock layer. This is because usually I select small items and I struggle zooming in when I don't have much real estate, but that's a very, very good advice. You can always click on auto select. That will allow you to select object inside the canvas or not. So in this case, for example, like RB was saying, I do not need to lock my layers if I have my auto select unticked. So in this case, I will only select whatever is there. So in this case, the sun will be the only item that is selected. Perfect. So thank you so much, RB. As I say, this is a safe space to learn always together. Wade is saying 9 a.m. Pacific time, 11 Central Standard Time for the Photoshop Creative Challenge. So if you want to go ahead and sharpen your techniques in Photoshop, make sure to tune in at 9 a.m. Pacific or 11 Central. Beautiful. So we started our first animation by moving the sun, letting it rise, and then having the sunset. And then perhaps the other thing that we're going to do right away is to add the sky. So we can introduce another items, which is how to animate the opacity of a layer. So in this case, what I'm going to do is to bring my night sky, which is also part of the layer here. By the way, if you're just tuning in, if you're watching the stream and joining just right now, make sure to tune in on behance.net/live, behance.net/live in order to join the chat and join the stream on Behance. And then you can also just simply go ahead and download this file on my freebies, which are on the website imcladi.com/freebies. That's another freebies that is available, which is the social media graphics cheat sheet. But here, if you go ahead on imcladi.com/freebie, you will be able to click on assets in order to have all these lovely illustrations that we're working with today. So you can join in at any time. Perfect. So let's keep going here. As I said, I want to bring in the night sky. I hope that I already copied. In this case, I can just bring it in as a single vector smart object because it is just one single layer. So we didn't have to like just paste all the layer because it was just one item. I'm going to go ahead and click on right click on the layer in order to rasterize it. And then we can start to play with its opacity. So we can see that inside the layer stack, this layer is located under the sky background folder. So as I said, the tracks inside the video, inside the timeline animation simply mirror. So they're the exact copy of the timeline. Everything that is displayed here is exactly the same as it is displayed here. So that happens, what that means is that now if I click on a down pointing arrow here under style background, you will see that the new vector style, so the new night sky, is automatically updated. So what happened here, if I double click on the name and call it night sky, you will see that automatically it will change its name inside the time panel as well. So morning sky. So the same thing we're going to be doing here. The transition is going to be going from the dark sky into a lighter sky while the sun rises, and then again bring it back into a darker sky once the sun set. So the way that we're going to be doing this is by clicking on the night sky, and again our morning sky is just going to stay in the background, which doesn't matter for this particular case. We can just have it on all the time. I'm going to go ahead and click on the opacity time stop in order to activate the time frame. In this case, we're not moving anything, we're changing the status of opacity of this specific layer. So at the moment its opacity is at 100%. You can see that by heading to the layers panel, and from here you will see that the opacity is set at 100%. Then I'm going to go ahead and move the timeline until we have the sun that is right up in the sky, and that means that it's morning time, so we do not need to have all the dark sky. We needed to have it nice and light. So we can perhaps set its opacity to 0 at this point. So go ahead and click into 0. And look what happened here. You will see that automatically we have another keyframe, and now we have our sky dissolving. So because we have another layer already present at the bottom, what happened is this layer is dissolving and is showing the morning sky. Of course, if we do not have any visibility for the morning sky when this layer is transparent, there is nothing showing up. So the reason why we have this beautiful transition is because we have another layer underneath. So the other layer disappears and it reveals the sky. And also another tip, I'm going to jump into Illustrator real quick. The way that I have created these this sky is by having a gradient. And look at that. If you see the actual gradient, I'm going to press the letter G in order to access the gradient. You can use any color you want simply by editing the color stops here. But what I've done here, this is exactly the same gradient for both skies. But if I move that lower down, that's exactly the same gradient as the night sky. So that's a little trick for you to show when you have something like that moving. You can use the same gradient and just simply have the gradient slide, and that's a great effect if you then plan to animate it, because you kind of retain the same colors, the same transition, so your animation is also much cleaner. So what happens here now, we have the sky turning light as the sun rises, and then we have gonna have the sky having to turn dark again. So all we have to do is to bring our timeline, and remember, because we had the sun sitting there in the middle of the day, we want to make sure that we do the same for our sky. So let's go ahead and keep the sky a little bit lighter until the sun is up, and click on the keyframe. So the little diamond that is here under the timeline panel, in order to add a new keyframe. As you can see, I have aligned it to my sun, and then you have here basically what we've done with the sun. We're just gonna keep the same transition in time. So then from this new point where the sun starts moving, now we can add a new opacity. So we can come back here and bring our opacity to 100, and you will see that we have completed our day sun and sky animation. So we have the sun rises and it stays clear, the sky, and then the sun set and the sky and the sky also gets darker. I think that looks quite neat. Don't forget to press Command S. Sorry, my active corners are way too active. Press Command S in order to save your file. Photoshop is going to let you know that the document contains nested layer groups that might change in appearance if opened in other application. I'm going to click on Do Not Show that again. That doesn't really matter to us, and click on OK. Fantastic. So it's now time to show you how to rotate the leg, and then we can go to the blinking eye, and it looks like we have everything in time. Let me know if you are enjoying the stream. Put a little koala icon. Do we have a koala icon? I don't even know if we have a koala emoji. If you have a koala emoji, if you find it in the chat, share some love to me and to the little koala if you're enjoying the stream inside the chat. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, jump inside that behance.net/Adobe Live chat. I can see some love into the YouTube chat as well. I do not read it. It's very far away. So if you want to just participate in this wonderful community on Behance, jump on Behance adobe live and give a little koala emoji coming up if you are enjoying the stream. Right, so let's go ahead and start by moving the legs. As I said, what we have done here is to transform the legs first by rasterizing it. So first we merged the layers because we had the grain and then we had the other shape layer. And then we can actually rotate it now to access the rotation. So look, these different panels look different. Here we have transform opacity style, while we here have position opacity style. That's because the leg is a smart object. So a smart object will allow us to create rotation. Oh, I can see a lot of koalas. Love you guys. That makes me so happy. You have no idea, you know, how much your feedback is important for us here streaming. So fantastic. Let's keep going and rotate the legs. So all we have to do here, again, the drill is the same. Move the playhead, then create a keyframe, then alter the position, and then move it in time and repeat. So again, first thing that I'm going to do is to make sure that I select the right track. You can also select it inside the layers panel. And then I'm going to go ahead and move by pressing Command T or Control T on a Windows. That will allow you to access the transform option and it will bring up the bounding box. Now click and hover on the side of one of the corner of the bounding box in order to access the rotation. You can also move the origin of the rotation if you wish by clicking and changing the actual origin point of your rotation. You will see that now our little origin point is at the middle, which is absolutely fine, but you will be able to also change the origin of the rotation if you wish. In this case, I'm happy to keep it at the middle, and I'm just going to rotate the leg to the side. So we're going to start with the leg just kind of hanging out, and we're going to have the little koala swinging his leg while he's chilling inside the branch. Press on return in order to retain the first position, and then click on the time spot on the rotation in order to, into transform in order to retain this position. Remember, time 0, this is the initial position. Then we gotta move our playhead in time and then press again Command T or Control D and start by moving again the little leg on the opposite direction and click on return. And look what happens here. So we have our first swing for the koala. It looks like it's quite slow. So again, click and drag your keyframe so you have the shortest the space, the faster is the animation. So again, now they're quite close, so the leg swing should be quite fast. Here we go. So you can go ahead and keep going. So all I'm going to do here, if you want to keep the same rotation, what I usually do is to just add a little bit of like couple different one. I don't want to use exactly the same positioning just because otherwise it just looks boring and it just looks like, you know, the little details that really make the difference. So I'm going to take my time here and again, here give it another rotation. In this case, we're not going to bring it all the way up. We're going to just kind of leave it in the middle, and then I'm just going to bring it forward again in time and just have it coming forward again. So it just kind of looks like is just moving his leg back and forward, completely relaxed and chilling. Now remember what we said before. I'm gonna go ahead and check it out, but the longer is the movement, in this case for the rotation as well, the larger is the rotation, the arch they are going to create with the rotation, the longer the space between the timeline. Otherwise it just looks like it's going to bounce around real quick. So it kind of looks cool right now. It just kind of looks, he's getting his little vibe, a little koala just moving the leg just like so. And by the way, if you wish to move the koala a little bit further, we can actually do that because he's kind of under this gray mountain, but maybe we can move the mountain itself. Let's see if we go to the mountains, and because we do have our lovely Illustrator files that are there for us together, I believe that this is our first mountain there. That's our first group. If we click on select them and we just simply move it. Now bear in mind that I am inside the playtime. So what I'm going to do here is bring the playhead to the very beginning so I can move the mountain and just maybe move it a little bit to the side so we can just appreciate our little koala leg moving a little bit more. Just by doing so at the very beginning, we make sure that we don't change the positioning afterward. So let's go ahead and press the space bar and we can really see the leg moving now. Fantastic. So there is another cool thing that we can do, which is simply to paste some of these animations. So let's see, our ending point looks like it's like our beginning point. So what I'm going to do here is to bring the playhead and then click and drag to select these three keyframes. As you can see now, they're all yellow and selected. And then I'm going to click on Control and click on it and then click on copy. Then I'm going to go ahead and move to the last playhead, which looked like was pretty much in the same position. Once we click on it, remember, move the playhead and click on it to activate it. It will look yellow as you do so. Right click on it and click on paste, and you will see that you have pretty much replicated the same animation again. So we have our little leg moving back and forward and just chilling, and then again kicking back, and keep going just like so. And you can, of course, create many transformations. I'm just aware of time. We have 10 minutes. I really want to show you the eye because it's a little bit tricky. I left it to the end, and hopefully we're going to have time to create it neatly. So let's press Command S to save our document, Control S if you're working on Windows. And let's jump back into Illustrator and bring our little set of eyes in here. So we have our open eyes and our closed eyes. Make sure to click on Command C to copy, and then we're going to bring back into Photoshop. Make sure to bring the playhead to the very beginning because we do not want to introduce it at any point in time. We want to introduce them from the very top, and then we can go to the top layer here and press Command V. In this case, we can have Smart Objects. Sorry, that was a little bit silly on my side. Let's do it again. Layers. The reason why we want to select layers and instead of smart objects is because before, by using layers, it just placed the 4 set of eyes as one single image. Where we really want to retain the different layers here between the different 2 sets of eyes. So we have the open one and the closed one. And now we can actually rasterize this one, and I'm going to call this one open. And again, I'm going to call this one closed, because it's really important to name your file accurately, because it will reflect in terms of the timeline. Otherwise, we don't know which one is open and which one is closed. Again, Control E or Command E to merge and rasterize the files. And here we have our open set of eyes, and here our closed eyes. Now I'm going to go ahead and select them both, and then I'm going to align them so they're now all together, and press Command T to transform. I'm going to rotate them a little bit so they now belong to our little koala face. Oh my gosh, it looks so cute. You can also shrink them proportionally by clicking and dragging on the actual size of the artboard. And by the way, with the transform, the same that we use for rotate, you can use to make something smaller and larger as well, which is really cool. So as you can see here, we have our open eyes and our closed eyes, and all we need to do is to make sure that our little koala blinks. Fantastic. Both of them are now active. And what we're going to be using here is the opacity menu. Karen in the house. Hello, lovely to see you. I've seen your stream hosting. I know it's late. It's like 11:30 here in the UK. I know Karen is also in the UK. So fantastic. Let's go ahead and now work on these little eyes before we move forward. So as you see here, everything that is inside the layers panel over there reflects on top of our timeline panel. Here we are. We have our open set of eyes, and then we're closed set of eyes. Let's start by the open one. All we have to do here is, again, to make the eyes disappear. And as I said, we're going to be using the opacity. So I'm going to go ahead and create first a keyframing, which the eyes are open. Then I'm going to move in time and keep my eyes open because we don't want them to flicker. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and click in order to create another keyframe. And here we go. Our eyes are now open. And the first thing that you want to do for the closed one, we want to make sure that we set the opacity to 0% because we do not want to see them at the moment. And you will see the little eyelashes at the bottom will disappear. And then again, until the open eyes are on, we want to make sure that the other one are closed. So you can see here, all we see are the open eyes, and they're nice there and open. Now, the difference when creating something like a blinking effect is to make sure that we have a particular way in which we set our keyframe. So it's going to be the first status, which is 100% opacity, followed by another status which retains the eye open. So again, 100% opacity. Then this is followed by a little moment in which we're going to make these open eyes disappear and the other one appear. So those are going to have to be very, very close in time. So again, what I'm going to do here is to make sure that I also zoom in inside my timeline because I really want to see the distance clear because I want to make sure that I make it as close as possible. And look what happens. I can also check that I have not created a great alignment between the two, especially for the eyes. You want to make sure that they're aligned nice and properly here. So here I'm going to go ahead and make them disappear right away. The reason why I want to do that is because I don't want a transition going like basically the sky that become opaque really, really shortly. And unfortunately, I can't believe we're out of time. I know that I have like 1 more minute, but I want to show you, you go ahead and click another one more time and just simply set the opacity to 0. And you're going to do the opposite here by clicking another opacity for the closed eye and bring it to 100. So look what happened here. They go close, they open, and then they close. And now, unfortunately, we have literally run out of time at the best. But all you have to do is to duplicate it and make sure that you've done what we just seen before. Copy and paste and make that happen again. Thank you so much, everybody. We're going to be back with how to, and we're going to talk a little bit more about animation. I hope that was useful, and I will see you, everybody, very soon. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining me. And don't forget to stay tuned on Adobe Live. Bye.